Hey guys, Andy here again, and this is another video where I'm going to be answering the questions that you guys have sent in, and I've been getting a lot of questions about guitar strings, what strings to choose, specifically because I uploaded a video a few weeks ago about how to change the strings on an acoustic guitar. So we're mainly going to be talking about the string gauge and type of string in this video, so if you don't know what gauge is, this is going to be a video for you. And also just a quick thing to point out a guitar setup, because the thing is, you could spend $2,000 or £2,000 on a guitar and it might not be set up to play well. It might, guitars are put together by people who know how to cut bits of wood, and they have a basic setup and are put together, but to play well they need adjustments. So if you've got a £50 guitar, it will need adjusting, or maybe the strings changing on it. And if you have a £2,000 guitar, it may also need adjusting certain things. So first of all, as I say, this is an absolute beginner's guitar channel, so I'm going to be answering the basic questions first from the questions that have been sent in. It's really important to make sure that you get acoustic guitar strings on an acoustic guitar and electric guitar strings on an electric guitar. So first of all, you need the silver coloured strings on an electric one, and what is generally termed as phosphor bronze, so the bronze type strings on an acoustic guitar for the thicker ones. The thinner ones are interchangeable, so the thinnest one, the thinnest two strings I should say, on acoustic or electric are very much interchangeable. They're actually the same. When they're unwound, so they just look like cheese wire, you can change them over if you're short of strings. Gauge is the thickness of string. So we term the number of thickness, which is the thinnest string, that is then proportionate for the rest of them. So they always come as a set typically, though you can buy individual ones. And the most common set that are put on guitars when you first buy them, and that most people use, are called a set of 10s. So that would be 10 to 46 typically for most electric guitar strings. For acoustic guitars, it can be quite a bit thicker, so it might be 11 to sort of 52 or 56. And if you ask people in guitar shops, they tend to say thicker the better. They might even, your acoustic guitar might even come with 12s on it, which is extremely thick, especially for beginners. So what I typically, especially seen as, the thicker the string, the more kind of thicker the string is, you have to tighten it up more to get it to the right pitch when you're tuning it. So that pulls the strings really high off the fretboard, because the neck's getting pulled in an awful lot. So if your strings are really high off your fretboard, yes, we'll talk about guitar setup in a second, but actually you can cure that without having to adjust anything on your guitar at all, just by putting thinner strings on it and trying to be aware of what thickness you think the strings are. As a point of reference, go into your local guitar shop and try out any electric guitar. That will definitely have a set of 10s on it, as we call it. But what I'm recommending is for all acoustic guitarists that follow my channel that are beginner guitarists, and this is what I recommend to my private students as well, go at least for a set of 10s, which for acoustic guitar will be 10 to 47. That's what it will say on it. And even if the strings are still high off the fretboard, if you're still getting sort of finger pain on the ends of your fingers, and it's still uncomfortable and basically making you not want to pick up your guitar every day, then I would put a set of 9s on it. And that's quite a controversial thing. A lot of people who've been playing acoustic guitar for a long time may tell you not to do that. I'm aware of that. I've just seen great results when I've tried it out with my private students. So the only brand that do a set of 9s for acoustic guitar, Diodario, and this type, I'll put a big picture on it here. This is 9 to 45, super light gauge, bronze, full bright tone it says, and there's a certain number there as well, EZ890. There'll be links in the description anyway. these strings are the lightest ones, so the thinnest ones that we can get on acoustic guitar, and in my opinion the sound, although it's a little thinner, still sounds absolutely fine when you're first learning. If anything, it can make your guitar quieter, which is what most beginners really want. So these aren't ideal if you're going to be, you know, gigging around the world every Saturday night, but to begin with, so that you can play your guitar every day, try out a guitar with a set of 9s on it. You know, a set of strings can cost £5, so $7 or $8. It's worth trying out for the months that would be saved from having you play your guitar more often. It's as simple as that. For electric guitar, certainly, electric guitar tends to be a little bit easier on the fingers anyway, is certainly an important point. But I definitely recommend at least trying out a set of 9s, specifically if you're trying out some finger string bending, I should say, some bending with your fingers, which puts a lot more pressure on your fingertips and getting used to it. I remember I used to get lines when I first started stringer bending on my 3rd finger, and it would dig in, and it would, rather than just dint in, it would it was cut the string, because you're always kind of bending in that same spot. Of course, you want to have a rest from playing guitar if that's the case, if you do sort of break the skin too much. But a set of 9s, which would be 9 to 42, and I've got a set of Ernie balls here, they're really super good for just being a lot lighter on the fingers. And a lot of pro guitarists that are lead guitar specialists, especially want to play faster, will always put 9s on them, and it tends to be the power chord, pick, heavy playing strummers, that people who just strum their guitar and don't play many single strings, that use the heavier gauge. That tends to be the way it is. And again, on electric guitar or acoustic guitar, a thinner gauge is going to lower what we call the action. So for a guitar setup, we want the action, which is the height of the strings off the fretboard, to be as low as possible without it not ringing out. So whenever you've played a note that maybe pressed the note down on the fretboard and it didn't quite ring out, and you got a bit of string buzz, sounded like it was choking, when the action's too low, that's what the whole guitar sounds like. So if that's ever happened to you, that's why that's happened. So we need the neck to be sort of as fairly straight as possible, but there's always going to be a slight curve inward, so that all the strings don't choke out. But if it curves in too much, your strings are going to be really high, and it's going to be really hard to play, especially higher up, the dusty end as we call it, higher up here. So we want those strings to be around about 5 millimeters, is quite a nice gauge, though that would be up high. It will go closer when it goes up. It's just kind of, if your guitar strings are a centimeter off your guitar, that needs addressing. Even if you're playing down here, there's something fundamentally wrong, and it can actually be cured so easily just by trying out a thinner set of strings. It won't work in every case. Sometimes if the neck kind of, a great test if you do the Robin Hood test, I call it. So if you look down your guitar neck kind of like this, like you're looking down a bow and arrow, you can really see clearly if it looks like an S shape, that guitar needs addressing, and you'd have to take it to someone to have a guitar set up. Could try and do it yourself, but this is something that I wouldn't do for any of my students, and I wouldn't choose to do it on my guitars. I'd pay someone a fairly, you know, the cost of one private lesson, and your guitar plays like a brand new lesson. So that's getting a guitar set up, and give it a Google for your area, or try out your local guitar shop and ask them for if your guitar needs a guitar setup. As I say, cheap guitars, you know, a £50 guitar and a £2,000 guitar can both need a setup. It's not sort of, the more you pay, it doesn't come set up better often. It's just something that needs addressing. And that's generally it. That's most of the issues for your guitar being harder to play are because your strings are too high off the fretboard, or certain ones may be too low and the strings are choking out. So that's just a couple of ideas, and I would certainly recommend, in many ways, with your strings, thinner the better, but getting a set of 9s on it will really help, and that's fine to do for electric and acoustic. Thanks for checking out this lesson. Remember, there's a free beginner's course at andyguitar.co.uk. Please subscribe if you like this lesson, and I'm sure I'll see you again. Bye for now.